Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Don't you want to sound rich?
Hello and welcome to episode 11 of your favorite podcast dedicated to all things elite. Welcome to All Things Elite. I am your host, your Floyd and Savior Floyd Johnson. So that's something I use on my I use on my other podcast. But I am Floyd Johnson, and with me today I got a special guest co-host from Keeping It Strong Style. It's the young boy Josh Smith. How you doing, Josh?
Oh man, I'm doing so well. Really excited to be on the show. I'm kind of nervous actually.
Dude, nothing to be nervous about. We're just gonna talk about Elite and our WrestleMania weekends.
The elite.
The Elite. Dude, yeah. Oh, I guess I had too good of a weekend because I literally have been sick all week. Since the moment I started feeling like crap, the moment my flight landed in Dallas, and I don't know.
Got measles, right?
I don't know what the hell I got. It was funny because I got here Wednesday. I landed Tuesday, started feeling like crap, took a bunch of drugs, felt really good Wednesday. Like, oh, I kicked this shit. Thursday.
I mean, that's how drugs will make you feel.
Yeah, then Thursday was like, yeah. Thursday was like, oh, I feel like crap again. Today I was like, oh, I feel like crap. So I've been on Robitussin and the Quills day and night, and and fluids and all that stuff. My fiance's been taking care of me, but it's just like, hey, watch this show, watch this. I'm like, I'm trying. So I got everything watched, and we were supposed to have somebody else on this week. She started not feeling well because, apparently New York is a horrible, horrible place that makes everybody sick. And then
You gotta wash hands.
yeah,
Touching all those subway rails. You don't know what you're touching.
dude. Apparently, I was just like, hey, man, my body was not ready for the germs from New York, and neither were hers. So I was like, I called in the last second fill in. I was like, hey, Josh,
Oh my God.
what are you doing?
See, you're ruining the gimmick. You need to make it seem like I was always planned to be the guest host.
Well, me and Josh were walking through New York last week. One of us drunk, one of us not. Doesn't matter which one of us is. And he's like,
definitely Floyd.
why haven't I been on the show yet? And I was like, dude, you can be on the show anytime you want to. I was like,
man.
so I was like, I'm gonna hit up Josh, see if he's watched all the week in the Elite. Sorry there was no show last week. My whole plan was to record right before I left for WrestleMania, and once you get to New York, you're literally sleeping or on the way somewhere or doing the actual thing. It's one of those three things because it's so busy. So I had no idea how crazy subways and shit were. So I was like, I got to the point I was like, well, let me try to record something real quick. So I'm half sleepily trying to record something for last week, and I'm like, this is shit. So that's when I put up the post, and I'm like, this is not very good. So
You know what? I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it was pretty good actually.
yeah, I was like, this is. Well, it didn't feel good to me. I was like, you know what? And and we were just talking about this. So when you said you watch the shows, you don't believe in doing anything half-assed. That's how I work. I mean, I love wrestling too much to do anything half-assed, and all I'm doing is talking about it, and I fucking love that. So I don't.
I was actually I was having some I don't know what you want to call them, but I was having some issues myself. I actually had to go to the ER this past week, but some symptoms started popping up on me during the Suplex Mania podcast, and so like I don't really remember doing the Suplex Mania podcast. I haven't listened to it back yet. I've heard good things. Like we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and it was a great time. So hopefully it turned out okay. But like I was zonked out like during that whole thing, and I came home and I still had some. It wasn't really sickness, but I had something else kind of going on. I ended up having to go to the hospital. It was kind of crazy. Luckily, I'm alive. But yeah, man. I mean, New York was crazy. Luckily I did figure out the subway system. I thought it was going to be, because I get lost. I've got a terrible sense of direction, but I think it was pretty easy to navigate, honestly.
Yeah. That's me. If you tell me northeast, southeast, east, or west, anything like that, I generally can't figure it out. I'll have to pull out like a compass app because I'm like, I don't know what the hell. I don't know where we're going. So, but it was really easy. There was a lot of signs there. Good job not dying. As I've messaged you before, I only have one rule for my friends. You're not allowed to die before me. So good job not dying. That was great as far as that part. But as far as Mania and getting around New York, it's a lot of energy. But as an Oklahoman boy, that's, they call it Southwest. But I think sometimes we're closer to the South as far as our behaviors. New York and the attitudes of the people were a little difficult for me to.
Yeah, you see, that's the funny thing is like I'm in Florida, so technically I'm like in the deep South, but like it's different here. Like the further north you go in Florida, the more southern it is, and then as you get like to the midsection of Florida, like where I live, Tampa, it's pretty Midwestern and Northeastern, like as far as like the type of people that are here. And then you keep going south, and then it just gets Cuban, and you have to speak Spanish. So like I'm here, but it's really not southern at all. Like Tampa's a pretty big city, so I'm very used to Northeastern attitude and how people are there.
Yeah, I am very much as you've met me, a happy-go-lucky person, very positive. The things that I am on the show is how I am in real life. I was in a bodega, and I was buying something, and there was no one else.
I love the bodegas.
There was no one else in the bodega but me. It was like 5:00 in the morning, me catching a train somewhere, and this dude was like, I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was going slow. I have no problem admitting I was going slow, and he was trying to rush. He was trying to rush me, and I was like, "Do you have somewhere to be?" And like me, I'm not a catch attitude with a person at all. But he caught me at 5:00 in the morning. And I'm like, "Do you have somewhere to be? Is there someone behind me that needs to go? Why are you rushing me?"
Like he was about to catch these hands, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. It was. He had pissed me off because it was like, I could understand subways, all that stuff. There's generally 10 people behind you. But it was literally 4:00 in the morning, and there was one person in the store, and he was still rushing me. No, I wasn't having it.
We were in Queens. We had this amazing bodega, like just walking distance from our Airbnb. Every morning, I would get egg, cheese, and pastrami on a roll, like $3, bro. Oh my God, it was amazing. I loved it so much. I got one every single morning.
Dude, so jealous of you. I was like, I ate so much. I ate a lot of street food. I had pizzas, hot dogs, that kind of stuff. I ate a lot of street food. So in that way, I had a very New York experience. But a lot of times on the events, I was going to so many events that I didn't really have time to like any
Like take in New York.
You
and
take
do all
in New York. The only thing I did was that last day or that Tuesday I was there. Monday for Raw, we went to Junior's in Brooklyn, and that food was amazing. It was amazing, but it was funny. The waitress experience, like as opposed to Oklahoma to New York, she was rude to me. But apparently, that's just how waitresses are there.
That's how it is, man.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this is, and of course I'm older. I don't look it, but I am almost 38 years old. So when I'm kind of set in my ways and how interactions with people are supposed to go. But it was great meeting everyone that I met. I'd already met Josh and Jeremy, but it was great seeing y'all again. I met Rich for the first time, James Boyd. I was meeting everybody. I met the people from the Super J Cast. I met Rich Craich from the Voices of Wrestling, which was kind of awesome. I was like, I always wonder if that's his radio voice or if that's his voice. I'm like, that's
how he talks.
That's how he talks. I'm like, dude. So it was cool meeting Rich Craich. I actually saw Joe Lanza, but he was on his phone. He looked like he was intently doing something. So
he's a good family man.
A good family man. So I just left him alone. But I saw him. I know what he looks like now. That's good.
I'd actually hung out with Joe the previous Mania. He's a real good guy, actually. But what's funny is I'd kind of put him over to the rest of the Social Suplex guys because they weren't really Voices of Wrestling listeners prior to last year, and so they didn't understand why I was marking out from meeting him. I was like, this is so cool. But now they're like avid listeners. So like Rich was like, Rich Latta was like, I want to go talk to him. What do I say? I was like, you walk up to that man, you say, are you the Kenta Kobashi of sex?
That's funny.
That's exactly what they did, and he was like, yes, I am.
That's funny. It was like I said, it was cool, but like he was obviously doing something. And again, in my Oklahoma nature, when someone's busy, you leave them alone. Apparently in New York, you just go up to them, punch them in the chest, and say, hey, what up? I don't know.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, apparently that's how it rolls in New York. I had a guy, a New York experience. I was going to WrestleCon, and the guy was like, hey. And I started looking around. He's like, no, you. He's like, I'll give you a couple of bucks to help me move a piano.
Ooh, nah.
And you know what?
Nah, Steve.
In my head,
did it, didn't you?
No, nothing in that sentence sound appealing to me. First of all, I don't need a couple bucks. I'm good. Moving stuff on vacation, a piano, like my feet and legs are literally like, I was like, no, I'm trying to find out where I'm going. Thanks, I'm busy.
I feel like your natural reaction would be, I'm not gonna do that, but here I'll give you a couple bucks to help you.
Yeah, which is that's more of my reaction. I was like, I will pay somebody else to help you. No, and then it was funny because I went to the Chase Bank and I came out and I actually needed directions, and he was like the only one in view, and I just walked past him because I was like, damn it. I just said I was busy, and now I'm still here. I was like,
you guys don't even realize how like generous. Like when Floyd says he's generous, like that's like that's a shoot. Like the whole time we're in New York, he's like, "Let me buy you this." I'm like, "No, man, I'm good. Let me buy you this." Floyd, I'm good. Floyd. Always, constantly. It's awesome.
Dude, people are like, yeah. I honestly, it's just like one of those things. It's like we were at, I guess, one of the carts, and the dude wanted a hot dog, and he looked really hungry, and he didn't have cash.
Oh yeah, I was with you.
Yeah, and I just like gave the guy the money and said, "That's cool." He's like, "I can just Venmo it to you." I'm like, "Dude, it's whatever." It's like it's like when I'm on trips and stuff like that. That's like I work hard, so I don't have to worry about money. That's
right.
A very big thing with me. I work a lot of hours, so I don't have to worry about money, and I don't. I'm like, I was good. Actually, this is the Mania. I did the best with money. I was super under budget on this Mania.
I didn't do so well. Most of the time I was fine, but then late at night, you have a couple beverages, and you get home. You're like, where'd my money go? I don't know. What was I doing? Not sure.
Dude, if people had showed up at that bar that night with us, yeah, I probably wouldn't have been under budget.
But I'm really glad to be on this show. One of the things I don't normally put myself over very hard, and I'll be the first to say that I'm not the biggest contributor to Social Suplex. I would probably say a lot of that goes to Rich and Jeremy. They kind of are like the masterminds behind everything. But I will take credit for this one thing. All Things Elite was my idea. Because before the show was birthed and you came on, Floyd, I knew as soon as AEW was a thing, I was like, we have to have a show. And everyone was like, yeah, we'll definitely get a show. I was like, no, we have to have a show. And it was like, sometimes we can be procrastinators. And I was literally on Rich and Rich and Jeremy, every day. I was like, we have to have a show. We have to have a show. Who can host a show? And we were just racking our brains. And I was literally bugging them, because I was like, dude, AEW is going to be one of the biggest things going. We have to be one of the first people to have shows for this. It's a big deal. And then, and then luckily we were able to reach out to you and, get you on board, which, we were thrilled to, have that happen. But, I would say that this is one of the few things that I've ever been like, guys, we have to do this. We have to do this. And now it's here and, you're doing awesome. And I'm like, it's like a reality. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool. I get to be on the show that I wanted to be on our network for so long.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. I was doing my other show around the ring, and it was basically becoming an elite show. You know what I mean? Because I'm such a huge mark for the elite that I was talking about the elite a huge portion of the show. So when y'all came to me, it was perfect because I was I followed the Bucks, I followed the elite. Every piece of news that I can get. I was listening to Meltzer every morning just to try to find out new nuggets. So it was oh, this is perfect. And I feel like my attitude in general, as far as my super positive attitude, goes along with the lines of what the elite are trying to put out. So I think those two things line up as far as my consciousness and what they try to put out every week. So I think this will be fun because I like to have fun. I love the shows. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they are trying to put out an atmosphere of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the funny thing is I wouldn't say that I'm the biggest mark for the elite. My fandom of them obviously generates from me covering New Japan, for the past, year and a half or however long it's been. And then my prior fandom of New Japan. So, I mean, that's always been my exposure to them. And I'm not one of these gatekeeper fans who's like, oh, they're ruining New Japan, the Western expansion. I definitely appreciate them. And I've always been fans, but I'm not a super mark, for AEW. Although I will say everything that they've promised and everything that all the directions that they're taking the company have been nothing but a breath of fresh air and, a very promising thing. But I'm also a pessimist. So I'm I don't want to dive in full head yet and be like, this is the shit. Because I don't know. I'm everything that they're saying that they're going to do would just be incredible if it happens. But I've never seen it in my lifetime. So I'm still a little hesitant. But so far, everything looks great. And I'm so excited for this product. And I'm kind of jealous that you have this show because I was I wish I was covering the elite.
They brought me to New Japan and ROH. I hadn't watched New Japan ever, and I had been in and out of ROH. But when Cody signed with ROH, that was my first show back. His first match with Jay Lethal in ROH was my first show watching ROH. Cody's first match with New Japan, believe his first full match was at that Wrestle Kingdom against Coda, or was it Juice? I don't remember. The Kenny Omega Okada Wrestle Kingdom. Cody was on there. Do you remember who he wrestled?
Yeah, he wrestled Juice. That was his debut match.
Yeah, wrestled Juice. That's what brought me. That was my first New Japan show ever. I had watched New Japan matches, but that was my first New Japan show ever. So
that's one of the all-time greatest Wrestle Kingdoms.
Yeah, the Elite brought me to New Japan. So, and the Elite brought me back to ROH. I stuck, now that they've kind of left, I still watch New Japan. I'm still going to the show. I'm still going to the show in July. I've stuck with ROH. I'm still an Honor Club member with ROH. So it's just anyone that says, hey, they did any damage, no, they brought fans in. And I was able to see how New Japan that was a bit of a coughing fit. Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, that was a bit of a coughing fit. I was able to see how New Japan presented wrestling, and I fell in love with it. And I love New Japan and how they present wrestling. I don't think there will ever be a time in my life after this that I don't watch New Japan wrestling, just because I know I love Okada, I love Ishii, I do, I love those people, but just the way they present wrestling is always going to appeal to me because they present it like it's a shoot.
It's all about Taguchi.
You know, hey, them hip attacks is fire. I like the way he does comedy wrestling better than I like the way comedy wrestling is presented in almost any other company.
Have you gotten a chance to check out much Michael Nakazawa yet?
No, not at all.
Oh my God, you're gonna, bro. If you think like Taguchi and Yano are clowns, like wait till you see Nakazawa. Like this man's different level. Like, oh my God.
Are y'all gonna be able to make the trip up to Daytona Beach?
You know what? I'm glad that I am on this episode because we're gonna talk about the CEO show.
Yeah.
And I actually was in attendance last year. I'm hoping to go this year. Obviously, it's a lot of wrestling between the Mania weekend, and then we're going to be in attendance at the G1 in Dallas with you, Floyd, which is going to be awesome. And then, I kind of have a tough decision to make whether I go to Fight for the Fallen or whether I go to Fyterfest or whether I go to both of them.
It's sad. I can't go to either one, and that's as the AEW person, that really does suck for me because I don't get to say I don't say no at all. You know, I go to everything. Well, I am also getting married in between those July 18th, so those two things are in pretty much a dead period where I'm not allowed to go anything.
Well, here's the great thing. You don't have to be there because you're going to be able to watch it, on Fight TV or whatever channels they're broadcasting.
Yeah.
And with the connections that this network has and that you have in this industry, you're definitely going to have some sort of correspondent that's going to give you firsthand, account what's going on. And, they'll probably be a guest on your show. So, I mean,
boom,
it'll help, progress what you're doing, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I will not miss much after that. Whenever they do the TV tapings, wherever it is, I will definitely be there. And I know I've heard the rumors about the Chicago show in Chicago Labor Day weekend. I definitely plan on being there because Chicago's my kind of town.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that these, with the kind of schedule that's rumored, they're going to have plenty of shows. And, I think they're going to have a long future ahead of them. So, I mean, there's just going to be so many shows in the future. So, I mean, plenty of opportunities. It's going to be awesome.
All right. So the big AEW news from last week, and it was honestly the biggest piece of news that came out of AEW, was that JR signed with AEW, and he's going to be a part of the commentary team. I think he's going to be more of the color guy as opposed to the play-by-play guy is going to be, dude, damn it. I had his name like 5 seconds ago. Like, committed to memory, and I don't know why it's not coming to me right now. I might have just coughed it out. But Excalibur is going to be the other color guy. What do you think about JR being on the team?
I think that that's a really smart move, honestly, and I think it's it's something that a lot of people have had a lot of opinions one way or the other on. There seems to be a contingent of fans who are against it, whether it's AEW fans who are hesitant because of some of the performances that JR had when he was with New Japan. There's also people who I think are anti AEW who are like WWE fans who are like diehards, and they're like, oh, well, these guys said that they were going to do something new and fresh, but they're turning around and hiring, a washed up, WWE announcer or commentator. But I think a lot of people are missing the point when they say those sorts of things, because the reality is Jim Ross is one of the 2 or 3 greatest, color commentator guys ever in the history of the sport. And beyond that, he also is the former head of talent relations for WWE, and he's had his hand in some of the biggest, wrestling companies, whether it's Mid-South, Jim Crockett Promotions, WWE, and all the other ventures he's been a part of. He's one of the most valuable assets to a fledgling wrestling company that you could possibly have. So I feel like people are being a little short-sighted when they try to criticize this decision, basically.
And you know what? It is great to have you on because since you host the New Japan show, you have had the most recent interactions with Jim Ross from a critical point of view. You heard his commentating and had to critique it, and the fact that honestly, kind of the fact that you're okay with it, kind of is like, kind of puts in perspective that anybody that wouldn't be okay with it. The thing about Jim Ross is this: while he was covering New Japan, and he would not take this as an excuse, he was kind of going through a personal tragedy in his life. So
yeah, that's true.
And it was like, simply put, if that happened to me right now, and you were listening to this show every week, it wouldn't be very good. Because it would be the last of my focus in life. So, unfortunately, he did lose his wife. So, he was going through a lot of things. And, AEW is going to be, I think, it's going to be a renewal for him. And he's going to be more of the color guy than the actual commentator, which is Alex Marvez.
Yeah.
Jim Ross is going to be more of the color guy. So, he's not going to have to know the backstories as much as opposed to he can just add a little bit into like how dudes are working the matches, different mindsets of the wrestlers, how everything's put together, as opposed to being the voice. Like I even said when he was on Access, I would have preferred Kevin Kelly be the commentator and Jim Ross be the color guy. And I thought he would have been well better at that because Kevin Kelly could have directed him at which one was Evil, which one was Bushi, and Jim Ross could have just talked about wrestling, which he knows he has forgotten more about wrestling than I will ever know. So I just want to give that a shout out, and of course I have to defend my Oklahoma boy, Jim Ross. Yeah, he's been.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we got cut up a little bit.
That's weird. Yeah, I was like, it was just a little pause in there. Justin Robert, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
What I was saying was that we've actually had conversations in the past with Chris Charlton on our show, and I've also listened to podcasts with Kevin Kelly, and something that they've talked about is how when you have somebody who's more experienced and senior on the mic, that they can kind of lead less experienced announcers who are very talented but kind of produce them. And throughout the years, I've heard many people say this about Jim Ross, whether it's been Paul Heyman or Jerry Lawler or any number, even Michael Cole. Different guys have said that one of his key talents and one of his main assets, it's not just his ability to create a moment and to call play-by-play, but it's the ability to enhance the guys that he's with and kind of produce them, if you will. And so I think with Alex Marvez and Excalibur, who are both pretty talented, I'm not as familiar with Alex Marvez. I know his connection to Meltzer and all that, but I've listened to Excalibur for a while now. Excalibur's great, but he is a guy that needs a little bit of producing and a little bit of direction. I do feel like that's going to be Jim Ross's role, even if he's not doing all the talking, but the fact that he'll be able to kind of sharpen everything and kind of direct everybody, because I don't anticipate these guys having a Vince McMahon in their ear. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think that that's where one of the key benefits. The other thing too is, with Jim Ross calling, New Japan, it was very clear that this was not a product that he was a fan of. Honestly, I think that he was a fan of certain wrestlers and certain match styles, but the product overall was not something that he was passionate about. And it really came through, especially during the live commentating. So I do feel like in this case, it's going to be, like you said, a fresh start, because you have to think about somebody's mindset. If they're just calling New Japan and they know they're not going to be like they're not ever going to go to Japan and be the play-by-play guy. What future does he have there? Plus, he's not a fan. It's kind of like a dead end for him to a degree, even though it's a big company. Whereas here, this is something that he can really sink his teeth into and get excited about and feel like he has a purpose and a use and that he's contributing to building something. And, I've always found that when people have a purpose and have direction of what they're doing, then it's easier to get them to be passionate about it,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's just human nature. You're going to do a better job when you actually care as opposed to just drawing a check. I mean, and I think for New Japan was a check. They said, hey, call these matches then as we try to do our Western globalization, and we're trying to move into the West. And he was like, that's a big check. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And and he gave him, he I would say he gave him his best effort, but that would probably be a lie. He gave them an effort.
There were certain matches on Access. If you listen to those, there were times where he was great. Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't knock him at all. And I mean, like I said, when you talk about Jim Ross, you're talking about Jim Ross being right up there with Gordon Soley.
Yeah.
Tony Schiavone. I mean, Gorilla Monsoon. He's one of the all-time greats.
He's literally the voice of my childhood.
Yeah,
literally.
And the target demographic that they're going after, people that are in their, mid to late 20s, they are going for, obviously they're going to also target a younger demographic, but they are trying to target the diehard wrestling fans who are in our general age range. We're very familiar with Jim Ross. You know what I mean? And so they're doing something fresh with Alex Marvez. They're doing something fresh with Excalibur. There's nothing wrong with mixing in a familiar name that not only are fans familiar with and comfortable with, but probably TV executives are familiar with. Advertisers are familiar with him. You know what I mean? The wrestling talent is familiar with him. He's big league. You know what I mean? If you want to have a big league production, you've got to have a name like that. And so I think anyone who's criticizing it and saying like, oh, well, that's such a cop out, and no, man, you're missing the point. This is one of the most talented.
Yeah. What Chris Jericho is to the roster, Jim Ross is to the broadcast team.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to put it, honestly.
Yeah. So they also announced Alicia Toot will be the backstage interviewer, and Justin Roberts will be the ring announcer. So I have those. Justin Roberts, you're a WWE fan, you've heard that name. Alicia Toot has been more involved in wrestling over the last few years, doing her interviews.
Is it a toot or a tout?
It's a toot. I actually met her at Starcast, and I asked her for the correct pronunciation, and she said it is a toot. A Canadian, so that's she's like, y'all Americans try to Americanize it. Is the exact quote. She's like, it's a toot, not a tout.
Wow. We had an entire interview with her on Social Suplex, and the interviewer called her a tout the entire time.
And she never corrects him. But But I decided, I'm a sucker for pronunciation, and so I asked her, and she said it's a toot.
So out here big leaguing it.
No, it's like a poot. And that's how I think. I think toot when I think of her name. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with her. I know of her work with Impact, and then obviously she's been very involved with interviewing people just in general in the music industry. So I think that's probably a good move. It seems like a lot of people are very familiar with her. Justin Roberts, though, he's a great ring announcer. So I mean, it sounds like they're really compiling a good team right now for their broadcast.
He works at Oklahoma Indies a lot, so I've met him quite a few times. He's a very tan person, very tan. It's always funny. I tell him that all the time when I run into him. Like, you're just so tan.
The other funny thing is they signed Hugo Savinovich, who was like the main commentator for WWE through all the 90s up until the early 2000s.
Spanish language announcer. I wonder if his table is going to be broken in AEW also.
I mean, wrestling tradition demands that.
Yes, the Spanish announce team your table has to go down. No, but yeah, it's like I always said they had to be the most flexible announce team on the roster because they knew they were going to be doing half the show without a table.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, but yeah, definitely love that. I think they did a really good job with the announce team. I liked him, and I'm not very familiar with Alex Marvez, but you know what he's done. He definitely has a good voice. He, from what I saw on the last week's Double or Nothing, he does mock matches. He calls mock matches, and he's really working at his craft to be the voice of AEW, and I think that'll work. And Excalibur, long history with the Bucks. I've actually, you can shake your head at me now. I am a wrestling mark, but I've never watched a full PWG show. So honestly, I've never really heard him.
My question: are they going to make him take off the mask, or are they going to allow him to keep that?
I think the mask is his gimmick. It didn't seem like they were going to make him take it off.
Wow. That would seem pretty that's an interesting move. Obviously I'm in favor of that. I just wonder how like advertisers and television stations would perceive that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. It's big, you know, they're big on from what I've noticed from the shows, they're big on letting the talent be who they are.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's like to take the mask off of Excalibur,
He's not Excalibur anymore.
He's not Excalibur. He's whatever his real name is. According to Wikipedia, Mark Letzman. He's not, you know, he's not Excalibur. I mean, to be Excalibur, he has to have the mask on, and it adds to a mysteriousness to his gimmick too.
I also see here that Jim Ross is going to be moving into a senior advisor role, so that's also a key thing with him coming on. You know, this move to get him involved is not simply so he could be a commentator, but also to help advise, you know, management, which, you know, him being a consultant, it goes back to what I said earlier, like his years and years. I mean, we're talking decades and probably like what, 30, 40 years of involvement with the wrestling industry on the top level. It's invaluable what he can bring to the table and to help them, you know, navigate through through running a wrestling company.
Yeah, he was the talent relations guy for WWE for a long time. He was responsible for signing Stone Cold, The Rock, you know, Mick Foley. He was like, you know, he saw the guys, and he's always built a good roster. So, it's one of those things. You know, he's going to have his hand on a lot of different things in the because people are going to use him for his wealth of knowledge in the wrestling business.
Yeah, and I mean, he's worked on the booking committee for WCW before. He was, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Who was the promoter in
Bill Watts?
He was Bill Watts' like protege. He was like his right hand man. He helped him all those years. He actually helped them do the merger, you know, broker the merger between them and Jim Crockett back in the 80s. I mean, Jim Ross has done and seen it all, you know, so that's a big deal. One thing I would say to anyone who is hesitant about Jim Ross, there's probably people listening and they're hesitant, you know, and probably a little skeptical. I would say you probably have good reason to feel that way given Jim Ross's track record the past 2 years. It's not like, you know, Jim Ross in 2019 is not Jim Ross in 1999, you know, but I would say we should probably approach it with a little bit of optimism, you know, because I believe that him being involved with this project is going to spark something. And, you know, I just think he is going to do a good job, honestly. And I think it's going to overall be a good move. And, you know, if it's not, all parties involved will probably take action and you know, do what's best for the business. But I'm optimistic. I think that, you know, he's been involved with this industry for such a long time. And, you know, he's not my favorite personality and I don't agree with all his opinions. But I do think, you know, so I'm not a stan for Jim Ross, but I just think it is going to work out really well, honestly. And I think that fans should be just optimistic about it and hopeful that it does turn out to be a good move.
Well, I am an absolute stan for Jim Ross, but I will tell anyone his New Japan stuff sucked. I am one of I'll be the first person to say and be honest. It made it like hard for me to watch some of the shows. Like,
yeah, it was frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating, and it was more of you look at somebody as and exalt them as high as I do with Jim Ross, and to say, oh, he doesn't even know all the wrestlers' names at times. Yeah, I was disappointed. So
my biggest problem with him in New Japan, and I don't want to diverge or go off the rails too much. It wasn't so much that he couldn't remember wrestlers' names, because that's understandable. It was when he would start to bury what was going on with the product during the ring.
Yes, absolutely. Like the count outs and is that a disqualification or not a disqualification? Yeah, I remember. I remember the things he said. I'm like, dude, no.
And you know what? There's a time and place to do that, but not when you're the commentator. The commentator's job is to enhance the product and make it more enjoyable for the viewer. Not everything in every wrestling company does make sense, and I think they do some nonsensical things in New Japan that me as a podcaster, we take offense to it, and we will point it out. But if I was commentating for that company and I'm trying to put over the talent and the show, I'm not going to bury it on the air, and that's something he was doing a lot. And that was the one thing that was like, Jim, like, you're a pro, bro. You know better than this.
Yeah. I was like, I was big on. Yeah, I was big on that. I will say when he does stuff that's not great, I'm like, I love Jim Ross. Don't get me wrong. I mean, and anything he does now is not going to change any of the love I've built up over the last 30 years of my life that I've been listening to him commentate. It's just, you know what? Sometimes the product passes you by. I don't think he's at that point. I think he can catch up. He's had some. I think he knows to be with AEW. They are a forward-thinking, progressive company. So you're going to either catch up with their line of thinking or you're not going to work out.
I do think that there will be some silliness and some, shenanigans. It's, they're going to be entertaining. I mean, we saw that from All In. We know it from being the Elite. We know it from the wrestling that they've done internationally. But with that being said, I think that this will be a much more accessible product for him. And he's clearly a fan of these guys. I mean, he's watched them, and it's, he's very familiar with their work. So I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think he's literally known Cody his whole life, like since birth. That's a friendship. That's a type of mentorship that you can't compete with. That's Cody Rhodes. Why Jim Ross? Because he's fucking Jim Ross. Is what he said.
Yeah,
it's that simple. It's like that's why. So very excited about that. I wanted. That was kind of what we missed from last week. We didn't really get to talk about that. Like I said, adding a little Oklahoma flavor to all elite wrestling is always going to be a good thing in my mind because, I am an Oklahoma boy. But so this week we had Being the Elite. What episode was this? It was episode 146, Pissant. It was interesting episode. I watched it again today because I was trying to make sure I could talk about it, but it looks like it was just a lot of stuff from the C2E2 week. What did you think of this week's episode, sir?
Well, the first thing I will say is that I haven't been watching Being the Elite. What's funny is, like, up until a certain point, I'd seen every single episode. But around the time that we started doing your show, my show stopped covering it, so I kind of lapsed. I did notice that the audio was bad this week. I will say that. Like, the audio was very rough, which it's not always great, but, like, especially this week it was bad. But there was some stuff in the episode that I thought was really funny, like in the opening segment when they're in Chicago, and Kenny's trying to convince the Bucks of how much of a basketball fan he is, and like he doesn't know anything.
Dude, you know what is funny? Because I get that experience when people haven't watched wrestling in a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're trying to talk to you and be like, man, I love Stone Cold. I love The Rock. How they're doing? I'm like, no, bro, no. Have you ever heard of Seth Rollins? Who? What's a Seth Rollins?
It was so funny when he's looking at the statue. He's like, that's the guy. He was in the movie, with the Looney Tunes. And they're like, that's Michael Jordan. That's the greatest basketball player of all time. Like, you stupid idiot, you dumbass, you know nothing about basketball. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I started laughing there, almost died. But yeah, no, Kenny Omega, yeah, he knows nothing about basketball, and it's great. That's great because I love Kenny, but he's one of those people that's good at everything, so it's good that he doesn't know something. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he does not know anything about basketball. And the next scene actually made me crack up because it's MJF with Brandy, and
I love it.
They've had some magic. And MJF talks about Cody and says he's crazy because you know, he quoted the scene from Rocky Balboa, and I think he was trying to be a mentor to me. And Brandy grabs him by, and it's like, you watch how you talk about watch how you talk about my husband, because he's not crazy, he is fucking insane. I was like, yes.
Yeah, and then she kissed him on the cheek. And I was like, this is gold.
Yes, because they are the perfect couple, because they are a little crazy. They get this whole wrestling business thing, and then the MJF just pushes the Michael guy in the. He had a wrestling name or whatever, but I know him as Mike, and he pushes him.
I don't know who that is. I know he's like talent relations, right?
Yeah. They pushed him in the water. His Michael Solari is the name I see on there. When he was a wrestler, he was QT Marshall.
Oh, that's who that is?
Yes, and I heard them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they talk about him so a lot of times when I'm listening to other shows that cover the Elite, they refer to him as QT Marshall, and it's very confusing because they have Michael up there as his name. But yes, his wrestling name was QT Marshall, and so he gets pushed in the water by MJF because MJF is an asshole, and that was funny.
Yeah, the MJF bits are probably right now by far the most interesting and most hilarious thing that I think is going on being the Elite right now. A lot of the bits are kind of, I wouldn't say dry, but there's how long has this show been going? Like almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
And like he's like a breath of fresh air. Like everything he does right now is magic. It's my favorite thing on the show.
Yeah, I mean, like this episode's already at 170,000 people watching it, and that's finding it on YouTube. So it's just like, they're still strong. It's just every week, depending on the episode, because I've seen it go over 200, 300,000, especially the one where they announced the AEW one. I don't remember how many that was at, but it got an incredible number.
They're almost getting into keeping a strong style territory with their downloads.
You know it. People can't get enough of the young boy.
Sure.
That's funny. Dude, if we ever get 100,000 downloads on any episode, I will guarantee, and I'm a man of my word, I will strip down to my underwear and run around my neighborhood if we ever get 100,000 episodes downloaded or anything. No one wants to see that, but I would still do it.
That's awesome.
No, but we had interaction between Cody and Sammy, and it's funny, you get to see the other side of Cody in this one.
Cody is becoming like a straight up Bond villain, or like it's like his take on The Godfather or something. Like, it's hilarious. Like him just like drinking like fine scotches and like smoking cigars, and he's got a cane, and yeah, he's just becoming this like distinguished like villain gentleman or something like that. It's great.
Yeah, and he kind of went off on Sammy Guevara, basically saying the whole nice guy thing is an act. And he's like, you got yourself a spot. You're Jericho's favorite wrestler. And, I mean, he goes off. He just, like, destroys him. Sammy Guevara has this, like, weird, like, smile on his face, and he just looks happy. And Cody bounces, and he's like, Chris Jericho knows who I am. Yes!
Yeah, I thought it was funny when he mentioned, because Sammy, like a lot of the young indie guys, depending on where he is, he's gonna work heel or face, just depending on what's needed for that show. Because he's not right now strongly featured on any television program except for maybe MLW, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's the life of an indie wrestler. It's hard to maintain, a neutral character, or, unless you really built your brand as being a heel or being a babyface, you're kind of going to get used however. And so they kind of brought that up, like how they were doing a charity show and Sammy was working heel, and Sammy like flipped him off, and he was like, that was a charity show. We were giving bikes to children. Like, you're a piece of crap.
Yes, I love when they bring that kind of stuff up. Like Brandy still has beef with Allie for not helping her out and doing the Impact angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I love that. They like take continuity to a whole different level. Like, and Cody's the guy that like never forgets anything.
Yeah.
Like if you screwed him over one time in the past, he owes you. You just don't know when he's gonna get you back.
The really funny thing about it is how Cody assures him that he has the best judge of character out of anybody in the entire wrestling industry. Meanwhile, this whole thing with him and MJF like is still kind of ongoing, and he's just now starting to come around to the idea that MJF might not be who he says he is. But like for all these weeks, he's thought that this is the greatest guy and that they're best friends, and here he is telling Sammy like, nobody has better judge of character than I do.
Yes. And everybody hates Sammy Guerrero. I do love that. I absolutely love that gimmick going on, is that he's a nice guy, but everybody he runs into hates him.
But he's clearly not like, you can clearly see what Cody's talking about. Like, this is clearly like a Bo Dallas, Kurt Angle gimmick, basically.
Yes.
Like a delusional babyface. He's so babyface, he's actually a heel, and he doesn't even know it.
Yeah, absolutely. We get their AEW's appearance at Rise. Brandy brought Nyla and Britt to save Kylie Ray, and then after they save him, Nyla looks like she's about to like attack Kylie Ray because you know.
Yeah, she looked like she was gonna destroy her.
Yeah, and they like had to bring her up because they still represent AEW. And it's so they then they get the little pop up that talks about their three-way match at Double or Nothing. You excited for that?
I don't really know what to think about it, to be honest with you. I'll be the first to admit I'm not the biggest women's wrestling fan in the world. If someone recommends a match to me and it stands up, of course, and I'm all for like women's empowerment. But it's not like I'm like going out of my way to like watch Shine and Shimmer and Rise, and all that. So I'm not as familiar with the work of any of these women, to be honest with you. I am excited in the sense that I've heard really good things. James Boyd, who hosts the NXT show, NXT Then, Now, and Forever, he's a big women's wrestling fan. And he's assured me that, all these women are great. So I am optimistically excited, but I can't say that like I'm invested yet because I'm not as familiar.
I've seen one match from each of them, one except Britt Baker. I've seen a few Britt Baker matches, but
She's great.
Yeah, I've seen one match from Kylie Ray, which I sought out and watched. Nyla Rose, I sought out and watched, and you know what? I think they're good. I don't know how that's gonna equate to a triple threat match. I'm looking forward to it. Fun fact, Kylie Ray is the first AEW shirt I ever bought. And for myself, first AEW shirt that I bought and kept. And it's mostly because it's really bright yellow and it's got a smile, which I think matches my personality. So that's why I bought the shirt. And I was like, dude, I'm rooting for Kylie Ray because, she's all about smiling. And, so I'm looking forward to the match between the three. I think it's one of those things that could be like a low-key show stealer in the end. Just like last year at All In, I thought the four-way with the women was one of the best matches on the show. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. We get that, and then we get Justin Roberts as he gets welcomed to the team.
I love this bit.
And then Cody comes in and he announces Cody Rhodes, and that was hilarious. And funny thing. I don't know how busy he is going to be, but I am actually inquiring about it. A friend of a friend knows Justin Roberts, and I would like, you know what would be awesome if he announces me down the aisle at my wedding. That would be so awesome.
Why don't you try to get him on this podcast, Floyd?
You know what? That would be cool too. It's one of those things. I have to work on my interview skills. I don't know what I would ask him. Like, how does it
bro,
feel?
I've listened to you do interviews. You're great. What are you talking about?
I was like, hey, how does it feel to announce for a show that hasn't announced? You haven't done anything yet. But
we'll talk. We've done a million interviews. They're really not that hard. Trust me. We'll talk off the air.
But yeah, no, he's very easy to talk to. When you meet him in person, he's a very engaging individual. He's like, he doesn't want to just say hi, shake your hand, and you walk away. He wants to ask about your wrestling experience. So I honestly don't think it would be that hard. I'm honestly on my brain. It's tuned, and this is from training from my future wife. It's tuned to wedding now. WrestleMania is over. I'm in wedding mode now.
Well, that should be a goal of this show. Justin Roberts, the people want it.
Yes, definitely. Justin Roberts, gonna try to hit him up. Like I said, he's a friend of a friend. It would be great to have him on the show. Maybe get some. See if we can get some more of the AEW people to talk all things elite with us. One thing I liked about this bit was in the beginning where basically Brandy's like, this is your place, do your thing. And they're like literally just in a break room. And then he's just standing there. And as people like walk in, he's just announcing them. Yes. The one with QT Marshall or Mike in the bathroom, that was awkward. I was like, what's going on there? Yeah, it was funny because you can talk about this experience. We're at WrestleMania weekend, and you're in the bathroom peeing next to wrestlers.
Yeah, I peed literally right next to Jay White.
Yes, and it was it's like, you're like, look for it. Don't talk to him. You want to, but it's creepy if you talk to him. That's pretty much what's going to my head when I'm in the bathroom.
I got no shame in my game. I talked to him.
Yeah, no, I was like, dude. Yeah, so I was like, and it was funny. I was going to the airport Tuesday morning. Big Show was leaving, and it was like, it's 4:00 in the morning. Now, I am a morning person. Everyone will hate this about me. When I wake up, I wake all the way up. I wake up at 5:05. At 5:06, I am full Floyd. It is very annoying for my fiance. It is very annoying for every person that is in my life. Because I am awake, I am talking, let's go. So it's 4:00 in the morning, and Big Show, obviously tired. And then I'm me. And I'm like, and it's taking everything in me not to be all the way me. You know how I am. I talk a mile a minute.
I'm total opposite, man.
Yeah.
When I wake up, it takes me time. I need coffee.
Yeah, that's normal humans. I am not that way.
I need speed. I need Adderall. I need meth. I need whatever. Give me something. Wake me up. It doesn't matter. You gotta shock me awake like I'm freaking PCO. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Which cool entrance. But if I'm like, hey, let's record the show at 8, I can wake up at 7:57. Let's go. Let's talk about wrestling.
God. No.
So apparently, then we had a talk at C2E2. And they put over the fact that Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho are wrestling. And then the Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks. And then they announced, in the shock to absolutely no one, that the AAA Tag Team titles will be on the line.
Yeah, I was a little confused. Wasn't that already confirmed?
No. Let's see, and this is what happens. Stuff comes out on the internet, and we assume, and people start like posting it, but it has never officially been announced by AEW yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was like, this was confirmed weeks ago. Like, I literally was watching this, and I was like, why are they telling us this now? I thought they already did, but yeah, you're right.
They officially announced Heyman and Pac 2 weeks after everyone out had assumed that match was already going on. We had literally broken down how the match was going to be on the show, and it was like, oh, it's official now. No, yeah, they spoil everything. Even the Bucks said it. They spoil everything, so it's not shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that they're doing this. I do wonder what kind of ramifications this will have as far as drawing, Latino and Mexican viewers to this product, because their tag titles are going to be, on, one of their bigger shows. But at the same time, the tag titles don't mean anything there. Titles in general don't mean very much in Lucha Libre. And, the Young Bucks didn't really have a great reception just because people were unfamiliar with them at the time. So I think it's good for, having some notoriety for for their partnership with AAA. That's great that they're gonna, headline or co-headline a show, whatever, with those titles. But I just wonder, like, how important this is going to be seen in the eyes of, like, Mexican fans,
Yeah, they just tired of gringos stealing their shit.
We lie, we cheat, we steal.
Yeah. Now, then we get Hangman in the car, and he gets a note from Pac.
Oh, this popped me more. I forgot. This popped me more than anything else on the show.
Well, I'm gonna let you go. Tell us about it, sir.
So we get Hangman, and he's getting into his car, and he's going through his mail, and he has this letter. And it's from Pac. What did it call him? Fat ass Page?
Yes.
Fat ass Page.
Fat ass Page.
And I don't remember exactly what it said, but it had a disc in it. It said video DVD play me. So he puts it into his car, like, CD player, and somehow that magically teleports the video to his phone. Somehow, I don't know how, it just does.
Yes.
And it's a surveillance camera from inside Page's own home, and Page is standing there, and he's got a bag of potato chips. And he's looking so longingly at this bag of potato chips, and then he, like, reaches in, he pulls out one chip, and he, like, is struggling, like, he wants to eat it but he won't, and then he takes, like, 2 licks from it, and he bites one little piece off, and then puts it right back in the bag and wraps it up and puts it back in the pantry. Oh, and he also, I remember what he told him he said, "You're never going to be full gear ready in time for Las Vegas."
Yes. He is not. He had a half a chip, and he put it back, and then wrapped it back.
It was like a quarter of a chip.
Yes, and then he put it back, and then he wrapped the bag back up, which I was like, that's disgusting. Yeah.
It's so disgusting.
Yes, and he walked away in shame for eating that quarter of a chip. I do want to say, keep going on everybody that's doing the Full Gear Challenge. We are all still supporting you. I never started, so I can't say I failed. Yeah, no. My full gear challenge is, I'm gonna keep wearing the same clothes I wear every day. Full gear challenge. No, I am not what you would call a healthy eater. So yeah, but I do plan on, as I do every year when I get back from WrestleMania. If you might have saw my Facebook post, I do plan on walking a little bit more this year, as to actually try to be ready for WrestleMania, because good Lord, my body hurts right now. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I told you what I do for a living. I literally sit on my ass. So I work a 12-hour shift. I'm in front of a computer sitting down. And I do that all year. And then I go to WrestleMania and I walk like 20 miles in like 5 days. And my body's like, whoa, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? Sit down. And it's like, yeah. So this year I plan to try to walk a mile every other day to hopefully take some of the pain off of my body. It's funny because I was walking funny. You even pointed it out on Saturday night. I don't know if you remember. It's like, it looks like you have back problems. I was like, I have fat.
I said that?
Yeah.
Man.
He was like, you walk like you have back problems. And I was like, I have fat problems. And you popped. You laughed at that. I was like.
Bro, we know who the inebriated one was. I don't remember that at all. I'm a jerk.
I don't care. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, dude, to me in life, most people just don't accept choices. I accept the choice. I don't work out. I don't eat well. There are going to be consequences to that. And it is what it is.
Man, speaking of that though, like, I don't know what your schedule is like and things like that, but like, you should just do like 1 mile a day, like instead of every other day, because it's honestly, you don't have to go fast. You just go easy. What I do, like at my job, I get like an hour lunch break, and we just have a pond behind it, and I just walk around it. Nothing crazy, and it's just like it's not gonna change everything magically, but it's just take one
my goal
15-minute walk.
My goal is to build up the tolerance, because I will have another 3-day period where I'm up on my feet a lot in less than a month. Well, actually a little over a month when I go to Double or Nothing. So that should be fun.
Yeah, it's good for you, man. I mean, and it's also, it's good to just get out in the sunshine and.
Oh, yuck. What was that? Oh, God. That thing in the sky.
Get some fresh air. It's good for you.
Oh,
man.
I hate that too. Febreze. No, and then the next clip actually is going to lead to another part of ours. It was Kenny and the Bucks on a Skype or FaceTime. I don't know which one. It didn't say the brand.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, and Kenny was telling him about this video that he watched and how he was going to change the world, that he came up with this idea about girls and music and bungalows and all that stuff. And it was a clear reference to Fyterfest. And it was a clear reference to Fyterfest. And apparently he had only watched the promotional video. He had not watched the documentary. Or he had only watched part of the documentary.
Yeah, he hadn't finished it. And they're like, Kenny, you have to finish it. Like, go watch it now. And he's just going on and on and on. And they're like, you have to go finish this, Kenny. Like,
yes.
And he's like adamant that like he's gonna change the world with his big announcement for CEO based off of Fyterfest. Like, it's so funny.
Yes, and it was just like, so they announced that his video was going to be released the next day at 11 o'clock. And that leads us to the next thing we were talking about, the Fyterfest video.
I love it. Fyterfest. That's great.
Fyterfest. Honestly, this made me want to go to it. I was like, I had pretty much accepted that I wasn't going to be able to go to the AEW CEO show, but it was just like, this was so funny. And it was just like, it had a bunch of video games, and it was was it over the top of the Fyterfest video, kind of?
Yeah, so the video
Fyterfest
was
video. Yeah.
What's that?
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, so the video was just filled with like bikini-clad women, gorgeous models, bathtubs, dancing, and then like suddenly like a disclaimer that like there's a good chance that none of these women will be at Fyterfest.
It's like there will be some wrestling too. And then they showed, the hula hoop was funny. Then it was like a bunch of like Cody, Hangman, and the Bucks looking like they were trying to hula hoop.
Yeah.
The Matt Jackson one was the funniest one because of how his hips were moving. Oh my God. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It was hilarious. I just thought this was like the greatest promotional video ever.
Yeah, it was really, really, really funny. Yeah. So that's what they're doing. Fyterfest, which is going to replace the Worlds Collide CEO show that they did last year.
So they announced some signings this week and some matches that they're going to have at this. One, the previously announced No Holds Bar Nakazawa versus Jabali. Then they announced Kenny Omega and the Bucks versus Pac and the Lucha Bros. Is that match not going to be the most like amazing thing ever?
That's pretty much the draw right now. Like if I do decide to go, it's going to be me deciding that I need this match in my life.
Then the third match announced will be Kobe versus the new AEW signee Darby Allin.
Yeah.
What? How big? Are you a big Darby Allin guy?
Yeah.
Yes. I listen to the other Elite podcast called Everything Elite, and they're big on Darby Allin. They say he's the best wrestler in the world. They're
wrong. They're wrong.
They say he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. They had him in like top 10 or whatever. And they used to do the show Everything Evolves.
Right.
And Darby Allin was a part of Evolve. So they are highly familiar with Darby Allin. They are big Darby Allin fans. So
right. Well, we're based out of Tampa, Social Suplex here, and so is WWN. So we're very familiar. We get to go to all the FIP shows. There's actually an Evolve show tomorrow night in Ybor, which I'll be attending.
What?
And so, yeah, that's going to be really good. So we're very familiar with Darby. I've seen him live, I don't know, 8-9 times. I think Darby is incredible. He's excellent. I would not, however, in the top 10 in the world. Nah, you've got to be sorry to the Everything Evolve guys or Everything Elite, but like they're marking out a little too hard if you ask me. Darby's not top 10 in the world, but if you want my take on Darby, I'll tell you, I think he might be the single fastest wrestler alive today.
Whoa. That's saying a lot, because there's this guy named Leo Rush that exists.
I put him up there with Leo Rush. I put him up there with Ishimori.
Okay. All right. No, but
he's incredible. He's incredible. The thing is, my knock on him, and it's not really a knock, because if we're being honest, Darby's only been wrestling a couple years. So this is not me burying Darby. The fact that he's as skilled and as talented as he is today, after only being in this industry a couple years, is astounding. Like, he is a world-class talent already, and he has so much room to grow. It's insane. So I think it's limiting him to say he's already top 10. There's no way he's top 10. I mean, if you got to look at the whole spectrum of the wrestling industry, it's not possible. Like, he might be top 50 for sure.
Yeah, just to make it clear, I don't believe they put a number on it.
Okay.
They said one of the best wrestlers in the world is what he said. They said.
He's very good. He's very, 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 very good. And the thing with Darby is, early on in his career, Darby couldn't wrestle, but he was a madman, and he was basically a human stunt machine. So, like, they would put him out there. He wasn't even fully trained yet, man. And he was like literally living in the Evolve dojo, and like in the WWN, like like he was living there almost, and living on the streets, like, for the craft. And he wasn't even fully trained, but they were like, well, he can sell and he can bump. So that's all he would do, is he would go out there and just get killed by guys. Like, Darby's one of the scariest bumpers alive today. Like, every match that I see him in, I think he's getting killed. And I think partly it is because he actually is. Like, he's very Mick Foley-esque in the fact that everything he does looks real, because it's got to be real, because he doesn't take bumps right. It's really scary. But over the past few years, he really has developed his craft and become an astounding technical wrestler, a dazzling aerialist. He's so freaking fast. He's very innovative, and his whole philosophy on what he does in the ring, he's got great psychology. We actually had a interview with him on Social Suplex a few months back, and just to hear him kind of talk about his mindset about the business, he's a real unique and interesting guy.
Well, I am excited because they announced his match versus Cody, and Cody is Cody, and he's the greatest of all time. No, I'm just kidding. No, Cody is one of my favorite people to watch work. He has this, to me, unique way of telling stories in the ring. So I like this. I like to see how they work against each other. I don't know if this is the first time they've worked each other, but that should be fun.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I didn't want to be like, oh, this is the first time, and then someone be like, well, Floyd doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, well, yeah, that's true, but
I might not know what I'm talking about, but there is a possibility. I mean, Cody had that phenomenal run on the Indies, so anything's possible, but I don't know that they've ever worked one another. I will say I think it's an interesting matchup. I don't know how their styles are going to mesh, but I'll tell you, I've thought that Darby was ready for the big leagues and the big times for a while now. He has worked a lot of top talent, Jeff Cobb, Shane Strickland, guys of that caliber. He's been in PWG, he's worked internationally. the match with him and Zack Sabre Jr. in Evolve is still like one of my top matches of last year. Like, Darby. Oh, his match with Walter last year was incredible. So yeah, Darby's great, man. I don't know what that match is gonna look like, but I'm very interested to see. I saw Darby during Mania this past Mania weekend at the U.S. versus the World show. He wrestled Black Taurus from Mexico, and that was a highlight of the weekend. It was really, really good.
I was unfortunately fortunately meeting ROH and New Japan wrestlers at that time, so I did not make it to that show. I wanted to make it to that show, but I was meeting Okada. So I think
there's a lot of people who don't like Darby Allin because of the theatrics, because of the perceived gimmick, or the reputation with him and Priscilla Kelly and some of the
what is his gimmick?
I'm not too he's a punk kid.
Okay.
He actually, to be honest with you, it's so interesting. If you ever hear him talk, he's not a mark. He barely likes wrestling. He didn't grow up a wrestling fan at all. He kind of has a disdain for the fans, in real life. He's a real unique guy. He considers himself like an artist, like a stage performer more so than anything else. And he said that he got into wrestling because he wanted to progress his skateboarding career originally.
Really?
Yeah, real interesting stuff. So, but yeah, he's kind of like a misfit, or like an outcast. I wouldn't say it's supernatural, but he wears cut off Daisy Dukes. He's just real different.
Yeah, I see the half painted white face. Yeah, I'm like, oh, he has a unique look.
He's a freak.
Yeah,
he's a freak.
Yeah, but so I have this interview queued up with Alicia Tout, so I'm just gonna Toot. Excuse me. Now you got me saying it out. Alicia Toot. I'm gonna just bookmark it and watch it in the morning and see what he's all about. And he has a YouTube just full of matches, so I'm gonna get caught up on my Darby Allin. And I'll tell you, I am a lot more interested in him because he's wrestling Cody. So.
One thing I like that he said on the interview he did with us, not with us, with Wilfred, who is formerly part of the network, but it's still up on the Social Suplex Network. He had mentioned that one of his finishing maneuvers is the coffin drop, where he just goes up and he puts his arms over his over his chest like he's a vampire and comes straight down. And he was he's like, I can do flips if I want to. If I go to the top and I do a 360 corkscrew, whatever, and I come down on you, that's fine. He's like, but what is the point of wrestling? I'm trying to hurt you as quickly and as efficiently as I possibly can. What is a corkscrew going to help me to kick your ass? He's like, what is a flip going to do to help me to kick your ass? He's like, it's not going to do anything. I want to come down as hard as I can. So I just go straight up and I come straight down as fucking hard as I can so I can kill people. And I was like, I love that.
Yeah. Just the one thing I've said about Tanahashi, he has the most violent looking frog splash. His frog splash looks like a weapon. It is not supposed to be artistically beautiful. It's supposed to land on you as hard as possible.
Yeah.
And that's I've always said it. I was like, I'm not a big Tanahashi guy. I mean, to me, it's like I've always said, it's like if someone comes in and just now sees John Cena. I'm too far into Tanahashi's career to be a super Tanahashi fan, but I love his frog splash because it's so violent looking. He lands thud. He lands with a thud.
One thing that I've always said about Darby, and I feel like some people are going to hear me say this and think that I have a bad take, or maybe I'm being, I don't know what the word is, but this is offensive. But when I first saw Darby, who he reminded me of is the original Tiger Mask, Satoru Sayama. Not in his wrestling style, and it's almost offensive to put him on that same level because Sayama is such a legend, but in the sense that he's completely unorthodox. He doesn't wrestle like anybody else, and he moves at a lightning-paced speed. He reminds me of Sayama. When I first saw him, I was like, oh my God, this kid is so fast and so different and so unique. every time I watch him, I'm like, man, he reminds me of Tiger Mask.
Yeah. Well,
It's high praise.
I was going to say, that would be high praise coming from you. I don't know how good Tiger Mask was in the past because I am not the old school New Japan person that you are.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is that, in modern circles, Sayama gets a lot of flack for being maybe not the greatest wrestler. And you know what? Honestly, there are some things that, like I said, Darby has a lot of room to grow in this game and a lot to learn still. And there's a lot of things he does that I think wrestling purists probably look at and be like, wow, he does it that way. It's, and some of it isn't right. But that's kind of why he reminds me of Sayama, because he does things his own way. It's very unique.
Yeah, well, that is awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing his match. I'm glad he's with AEW. I think him being the whole idea of fresh is something that he does represent. Like, for me, this will be my first experience with Darby Allin other than, I'm about to go watch a bunch of clips on YouTube. But this will be my first experience seeing him, and I'm looking forward to that also. Are you familiar with you said you don't watch a lot of women's wrestling. I might have to bring James Boyd on here. I might have to ask James to be on here next week, and we just go through the women's roster because Hikaru Shida, apparently she signed with AEW this week. I probably am not pronouncing her name correctly. But
Hikaru Shida.
Huh?
Shida.
Shida? Hikaru Shida?
There's a D.
Oh, okay.
Hikaru Shida. Yeah.
I missed the D in my notes. Hikaru Shida. She signed with AEW this week. They actually put a video with 5 things you need to know about her. I did not get a chance to watch it. I will watch it before next week. Like I said, I'm going to have James. I didn't know he was until this week, I didn't know he was such a big fan of women's wrestling. So he will be able to give me a color on a lot of the people that AEW has signed for the women's division.
I can tell you some things about her. So, Hikaru Shida's, her background, she started in around like 2008, and she started in the Ice Ribbon promotion. She wrestled there till about like 2014. She's also had experience in mixed martial arts. She's done grappling matches. She's also a pretty well-known actor or actress over in Japan as well. Early on in her career, people have said that she's like a super talent. They were calling her like the future ace of Joshi when she first started. She's held multiple tag team and top titles, whether it was in Ice Ribbon. She also held the top title in Pro Wrestling Wave. She was the Smash Diva champion. She's wrestled for like Sendai Girls. Like, she's a very well-known and prolific freelancer over in Japan when it comes to Joshi. Like, she's a top talent, and I know for a long time that she's been one of Kenny Omega's favorite Joshi women's wrestlers. They actually wrestled a match together. I want to say in like 2011, if I'm correct. It was him and Asuka, who was Kana at the time, and she teamed with Masato Tanaka, and I believe that's kind of like where her and Kenny got their, friendship and relationship from.
Okay.
So I haven't watched too much of Hikaru Shida, but I know who she is. I mean, she's also wrestled for like Pro Wrestling 01, DDT. Like, she's a really well-known. She's also done stuff like here for in the States, like in Shimmer. If you name like a top women's wrestler like Madison Eagles, Aja Kong, there's so many names. Like, she's wrestled them all. You know what I mean? Like, she's been freelancing for about the last 4 or 5 years at this point, and she's really well known. She's internationally traveled. Like, yeah, from what I hear about her, like, she's like a top talent.
And that's awesome. I mean, and the fact that she'll have the stage, which is AEW, to show what she can do. And they haven't announced her in any matches yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing her. I think their women's division is hitting all the right notes. I mean, my favorite women's division in wrestling is Impact right now. The WWE's is the WWE's. So from what the talent pool that they've actually had to select from, I think they've gotten the best of the best.
They're doing a really good job.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward. I wonder if they're going to sign Tennille Dashwood. I heard her contract with ROH is up. I wonder, is she going to be a next person with AEW? Because you know what? She does bring a little more. She brings a name that a lot more Americans are familiar with. I would say more people know who Tennille Dashwood is than Britt Baker just with her time with the WWE. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very familiar with Emma. I wouldn't be surprised if she did end up joining AEW. I mean, that's the next big game in town. And, her time in Ring of Honor has been anything less than stellar. So, yeah, I think that's a good career move for her. And I think that she's a name that they would probably love to have on their roster. Plus, she can go, man. She really can.
Yeah, the Ring of Honor's women's division needs help. Just.
Well, they brought in the beautiful people. They've got their help.
You know what I said? I heard a lot of people laughing about that. I was like, it's better than what they had.
No, it's not.
Oh, absolutely is. People know who they are. I mean,
no, Floyd. They had Kagetsu and all those Stardom women on the undercard in a dark match, and they have access to all those Joshi women. It's not better than what they have. We're just not seeing what they have because they're choosing not to use them.
Yeah, I guess when Bully apparently he's helping with the booking. That's what the rumors are. Well, like I said, I think I can make I think as far as that heel group is going to do at least something for the women's division.
I really don't think so. None of those women are good wrestlers. Their like hottest period was over a decade ago.
But they're not, to me, there to be good wrestlers. They're there to, tell storylines, give storylines, and attract people into watching it. The beautiful people, when they were super hot, they weren't great wrestlers.
But that's the problem. People who have been fans in the past of Ring of Honor, like their fan base, they're not tuning in for great storylines. Otherwise, they would, or even that kind of storyline. Otherwise, they would just watch WWE. They watch Ring of Honor because they want Ring of Honor to be what it was, and it's not anymore. That's pretty much NXT. That'll pretty much be what AEW is probably going to wind up being. But that's the problem, is like people aren't tuning in to watch that. You know what I'm saying? Like that is the problem.
Are people tuning in to watch it at all, though?
They're not, because they're not. And the reason they're not is because all their talent keeps getting poached, and then the new directions that the company are going in. I mean, they had a chance on this big stage to do something cool, and what did they do? They gave us ex-WWE guys doing a run-in, ex-TNA chicks coming in to be involved with the women's division. They did a ECW like reunion type match. That's not what that fan base is looking for. They clearly don't have a good they don't have their pulse on what that fan base is looking for.
That's what I'm like. They may be pivoting away from that fan base because they know there are better options for that fan base.
I think the problem, though, is that you can't be WWE light and be successful, because nobody that's ever tried it has ever been successful.
That is true. I think Ring of Honor did. I think they, of course, did what they thought was best. Like for me, I don't watch their. I'm an Honor Club member, and I very rarely watch their stuff anymore. I actually talked to my friend of this year. I was like, well, all the people that I cared about in Ring of Honor are gone, so should we renew? And he was like, well, I still want to watch the pay-per-views. So I was like, all right. And then I just paid for the next year. So,
yeah, I hear you.
And so I have it for another year. Super excited, if you can't hear.
But to put it in perspective, they have access to all those Joshi women. What's one of the things that people loved most about WCW when they brought in all that international talent and they put on those amazing cruiserweight matches? What is AEW about to do? They're bringing in all those guys from Mexico, all those guys from China, and all this Japanese talent so that they can put on dazzling matches. What is Ring of Honor doing? They're putting those women in a dark, untelevised match and then bringing in the beautiful people. They're missing the mark, man. Especially now, I can understand what you're saying, But here's where they're really missing the mark. They have access to these Joshi women. Why aren't they using them?
I would argue because no one knows who they are.
But that's the thing. You highlight them. That's one of the things AEW is doing a fantastic job of. They're starting to profile these unknown talents for people so that they can get familiar with them. Ring of Honor could be doing the same thing. The other thing, too, is like we didn't know who Ultimo Dragon was once upon a time. We didn't know who Rey Mysterio was, Psychosis. These were just dudes.
Yeah, but they were dudes on the show that had Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash. They weren't. I mean, who's the draw to Ring of Honor to make you give those people a shot?
Yeah, but you know what people stayed for? They stayed for the cruiserweights.
I mean, I stayed for the NWO.
Well, sure, but
I mean, that's why I was watching WCW. It's because of the NWO.
There's so many people, though, that when you talk to them, they're like, I loved the cruiserweight division. It was like this big, hot draw. It changed wrestling. And these guys have a partnership with pretty much the most prolific Joshi promotion in the world. All they got to do is let those girls go out there and go, and that is going to help their business, but they're not doing it.
I like I said, I mean, I agree to a point, but where I'm missing is ROH really doesn't have a draw right now. And that's what they're trying to do, is give people a reason to tune in. The beautiful people, as much as like hardcore, like people that enjoy in-ring work might not like them, they have a fan base. I mean, I've seen them at shows here in Oklahoma where they have some of the longest lines for people trying to get autographs and meet and greets. And this is in Oklahoma, which is not a very hot wrestling very hot wrestling town. They know who those people are. Enzo and Cass, same way. People know who Enzo and Cass are. Even when people started hating Enzo and Cass, when his music came on and he started doing his spiel, everybody was cheering along. So Enzo and Cass are a draw. Cass being 7 foot tall, that's a thing. People want to see larger than life people. And I just think they're going to bring eyes to the product that will allow those people that can work really well to get more attention.
I think that's all true. I don't disagree with you, but I also have this idea that cream rises to the top. And if you don't let your cream rise to the top, then your product is going to fail.
Yeah, I am of the opinion. I have met people that didn't know who AJ Styles was until he showed up at the Royal Rumble,
right.
At all. Like, had no clue who AJ Styles was. And I was like, that being said, he got put in front, with the WWE product. So I'm thinking the beautiful people aren't going to be featured. They're not going to be champions, but they're there to hopefully get a few more eyes on the people that they're trying to get them to see, just like Enzo and Cass.
Well, here's one thing. My last point to this was, I think the draw was being at Madison Square Garden with New Japan. And they had the opportunity, hypothetically, they could have done something with the Japanese women that people would have seen and remembered and would have been memorable. And then people would have been like, maybe I want to see that. I don't know how much of that would carry over with what they wound up doing.
I can definitely agree with that. Unfortunately, Ring of Honor has horrible luck. On the night where they're about to do the big Cass and Enzo thing, which is what everybody would have been talking about the next day, Bret Hart gets attacked 20 minutes before that.
Oh, that was so terrible, man.
Yeah, so it's like, as much as, the attack sucked. I'm not going into that. I'm just saying that took that new storyline away from ROH, what they were going for.
I can't believe that anyone would ever attack Bret Hart. He's a national treasure.
You can't explain, and I hate to use this word, but you can't explain crazy.
Yeah. When Batista came out for his entrance and he had all those guys in the suits, I was like, that's the kind of detail that Bret Hart needs from now on.
It was one guy, and they were like, well, Vince is talking about not having audience members at the Hall of Fame. Well, I get it. But this was one time, and how many years have they been doing the Hall of Fame with audience members there? One time.
They should have had more security.
Yeah, the answer isn't to take all the sane people out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the answer, but yeah, I'm glad Brett's okay, and I'm glad that dude got the shit beat out of him because he deserved it.
I heard Brett hurt his hip.
Yeah, but he went to the hospital. I'm just like, when I mean okay, I mean like,
Yeah, thank God.
yeah, like that dude could have done more because he actually tackled him. If he had a knife or anything with him,
That guy's an amateur MMA fighter, right?
Yeah, I heard about that, and
Crazy.
and he needs help. Like I said, it's just like he's like, you just need to be punched in the face. Whatever, dude. You're nuts. Like sane people don't do that. I mean, sane people don't attack 60-year-old or 60-year-old stroke victims. You know what I mean? It ain't like it's not like you're fighting 38-year-old in his prime Bret Hart, because that probably would have went a little different.
Yeah.
You're fighting 60-year-old. I've had a massive stroke, Bret Hart. And
I was listening to I don't remember who it was, or maybe I read it, but someone was saying that their opinion was that it wasn't necessarily about Bret, but that guy was just going to attack whenever he got an opportunity, and that was just an open moment where security wasn't paying attention, and he just seized the opportunity, and Bret just happened to be the guy. Like he was going to run in there whenever the opportunity presented itself, apparently.
Well, I hope they throw him under the jail.
Yeah. Well, he's out now, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, dude. Oh God. Yeah, that's annoying. I love Bret Hart. I absolutely love Bret Hart. One of those things. It's like in the '90s there was this dark period after Hogan, and it was like Bret Hart was the guy, and it was like it was technical wrestling, and he told a story like you couldn't make a mistake or Bret would beat you, and I just used to love that type of wrestling. I think early '90s wrestling or like that period of time gets a bad rap because there was some really good wrestling going on right then.
Bret is incredible. I think Bret might be my favorite wrestler of the '90s, honestly.
Sean. Sean. I was HBK.
Like I said, Bret might be my favorite wrestler of the '90s.
HBK. It's one of those things where you see the wrestler that they curtain jerked, they got squashed at WrestleMania, and then to see them end up main eventing WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels' story up to WrestleMania 12, dude, I was so emotional. I still can say to this point I've never been more emotionally invested in a match than I was at Shawn and Bret in WrestleMania 12. It always goes on my top list. What's
very funny? Even though I'm very fully aware that Shawn, 96 Shawn is peak Shawn, and his stuff that he did in the 90s is superior, I prefer his second run. Like, I think Shawn might be one of my favorite wrestler of the 2000s.
Yeah, his stuff with Taker and Flair and Kurt Angle, he had that great WrestleMania match. Shit, he was the first time I realized John Cena could wrestle.
Him and Cena.
Yeah.
Him and Triple H.
Yeah. Him and Cena. Cena was like, oh, Cena can work?
Yeah.
And of course, I was hating Cena at the time, so I was like, oh, Shawn Michaels carried him. But no, it was a good match.
Him and Benoit.
Yeah. Him and Benoit. Yeah. My favorite wrestler of all time. I'll take all my hits. Whatever. No, like seriously. But yeah, I love Shawn Michaels. Think he's amazing. Yeah, his second run was magical. But the first run set up his second run. It set up the mystique that led to his second run.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan. WrestleMania 12 is my match. It's always going to be in my top 5. I know half the crowd was leaving during the match, but I thought it was a well-told story, and just they'll never do an Iron Man match to main event WrestleMania again, but there you go.
Sure.
Yeah. So the road to Double or Nothing this week, and this is how the show's pretty much going to finish. Road to Double or Nothing. They had Glacier on there. He is going to be in the Over the Budget Battle Royal, which, how excited are you to see Blood Runs Cold, Glacier in there?
I don't know what to expect, honestly. I know he's worked a few big shows in the past few years. Like, he worked the Spring Break show. I didn't get to see that. I haven't seen any of his recent work. He did have a really good quote on the Double or Nothing episode, though. He said, "I might not be half as good as I once was, but I can be as good once as I ever was."
That's a country song from Toby Keith.
Okay, I don't listen to country like at all.
My fiance does, and she's the one that told me while I was watching the video.
Yeah, I was not familiar with that. So
Yeah.
I thought like he was saying something that was really prolific.
No. It was a country song. I actually met Glacier. He did Oklahomania last year, and I met him. I actually have his number in his email, so I will try to get him on the show. Now that
awesome.
that you put that in my head, and he said he'd be glad to do the interview. I remember I was going to interview him for Around the Ring, and honestly, I just started working so much I didn't have time. But now that I do have a little time, I'll see if we can get him on.
I think the thing is that I'm excited about it was that the over the top or the over the budget battle royal that they did at All In, which we were both that's where we first met. We were both at All In last year.
Yes.
That was one of, if not, that might be the best battle royal that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Not just live, but probably just of all time. It's probably the best battle royal. Well, no, 92 Rumble's really great, but it was laid out so incredibly that every individual who participated got shine. And he talked about it on the show. He's like, it wasn't like your standard battle royal where the old guy goes in the corner and everyone grabs a leg and they just kill time. He's like, this was a working man's battle royal. So the idea that Glacier's going to get to go in there after all these years and show what he's capable of doing and, kind of get some rub, get some shine, like that's a pretty like promising proposition. And, at one point I thought like Glacier was going to be the world champion,
Yeah, a lot of people did. He was, but he's a trainer now at that school in Atlanta. And like I said, when I saw him work, he still moves around pretty good.
Yeah, I would have to see. I haven't seen him work. I never was a big fan of Glacier, but as a kid, the idea that Sub-Zero was coming to WCW.
And that's basically what it was. It was such a ripoff of Sub-Zero, and I loved it. And I was just like, Sub-Zero's gonna kill everybody, and then we got Glacier.
He did karate.
Yes.
How's he gonna lose?
Ever? No one can stop a karate guy.
Well, the first time I saw him get squashed by Goldberg, that's when I knew Goldberg was for real. I was like, oh, this is for real. But I'm excited because the over the budget battle royal did wonders for so many people that were featured in that who aren't even aligned with AEW now. Kind of got springboarded and hot shotted into
Jordan Grace.
Yeah, Jordan Grace. Yeah, absolutely. She's one. So many of those people got, kind of bumped off that, which is awesome. So I think it's kind of awesome that they're giving, paying a little bit of like credit to somebody who like has done a lot for this industry. So that will be very exciting. I think he's going to get a huge pop and a really good reception from the crowd.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments. But again, that was my favorite show I've seen live was All In. It will.
Me too.
Yeah, it will never. It will be very hard for anything to beat it. I hope something beats it because that means I get to watch a better show. But it's going to be very hard for someone to beat that show.
There's other shows that I've seen that I probably have liked from a viewing perspective, but live attending it, I've never been at a wrestling event that was that special or that great.
Yeah, I mean, I was amped up that whole time. I remember I had problems like after we went after the show, we got something to eat. I had problems calming down.
Yeah.
So, I will. That was just such a great show. I'm looking forward to Double or Nothing. I just think they're gonna do everything they can to top it, but we're gonna see.
We'll see.
I'm still wondering who Cody's opponent's gonna be. I keep hoping out. I predicted Flip, but I've been hoping out on. I've been hoping Nick Aldis. That's been in my gut. That's who I really, really wanted to be.
It's Dustin, bro.
Okay. I mean, I love Dustin. I mean, seriously, he was one of those people in New Orleans at 30. He was just walking around, and a lot of wrestlers were waving you off. Dustin Rhodes, I saw him stand outside of a Hard Rock Cafe and literally take pictures for an hour. Like
Wow.
I took a picture with him, went in and ate, came back out. He was still taking pictures with people.
That's awesome.
So Dustin Rhodes always going to be high on my book. Then we got so on Double or Nothing, we got a profile of Kylie Ray. She seems very positive. She's talking about the Nyla Rose and putting over Britt Baker, how they've wrestled before. And then we hear about Cody's book that's coming out, the children's book that's coming out. I pre-ordered it. Because the first 50 got a shirt. It had like Young Cody with Young Dusty, with Dusty on it. And I was like, dude, I want that shirt forever. And so that's why I ordered it. So we'll see what happens there.
Nice.
You down to read a children's book?
Nah.
Oh, okay. They're doing a book signing. They're doing the book release party at Starcast, so I will be there for it. Because I like to be near Cody whenever I get a chance, near his greatness. I feel like I'm greater when I'm around him. Cody Mark.
Awesome.
Cody Mark.
Yeah, I'm not. Obviously, I'm a fan of these guys, but I have no use for the children's book. I don't know what I would do that. I have no children, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, you need to impregnate somebody, sir. Go for it. Then you'll have a reason.
You never know. That could have already happened.
Then we get a little profile from Nyla Rose. She's very intimidating. She's gonna kill people, and yeah, she's.
They're doing a great job. They did one with her and Kylie Ray on that episode, and they're doing such a great job. And that's something that I wish other wrestling promotions, namely, not to bash, but namely, I wish WWE would focus more on this sort of thing. Because other companies are OTT is doing a great job of this sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thing with who was it?
David
Starr and Jordan Devlin. Oh my God, amazing. Yeah, I watched that like 3 times. I don't even watch OTT, and I watched that video like 3 times.
GCW does a great job of this sort of thing, but a lot of those companies that are utilizing this sort of thing don't have the far reach that an AEW or a New Japan or a WWE does. And I wish WWE would focus more on profiling people like this, because you would care more about the characters, and they've kind of lost their way in that sort of things. They used to be good at it. They don't do it anymore. And I really appreciate that AEW is kind of focusing on that sort of thing, because they're bringing in all this new talent that people are not familiar with. So what do? You make people familiar with them. You don't have access to their matches, so what do? You profile them. It's simple. MMA and boxing have known to do this for years, and they're great at it. I don't know why, WWE has got some of the best video, and they do all these incredible documentaries, those 365 and all that. But they could do that for a Mojo Rawley. A 3-minute profile of Mojo Rawley. People would probably care a lot more about that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. But now he stares at his mirror, and the mirror breaks.
I don't watch the product, so I don't know. But that's what I'm saying.
That's what they did this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Nyla Rose had this line, and this needs to be a shirt. She says she breaks bitches and takes riches. Done.
Oh, my God.
Done. Fan, I would buy that shirt right now. Right now. Breaks bitches and takes riches. I'm gonna
send a meme of that to Rich.
I'm like, am I allowed to wear that shirt though? I don't know. In this PC world, am I allowed to wear that, or I don't know. Whatever.
That might be a no.
Yeah, that's a good line though. It's a great line.
That's a great line.
I mean, that's how she should end all her interviews. So definitely, Nyla Rose fan here. And then we had a brilliant introduction to Darby Allin. If I had never heard of Darby Allin, I would want to watch Darby Allin wrestle. I mean, he comes in, drives over a fence, spray paints the car. You see him on his skateboard, and apparently that's real skateboarding skill there. And then he has this fire with AEW in it. I'm like, dude, fuck. This is hey. I want to watch you wrestle. I don't know what you can do, but I want to watch it.
I've got a lot of friends that don't know much about Darby Allin who don't like him already, just based off of some of the controversial things that he's said, or the stuff that happened with Priscilla Kelly and the tampon and all that. But I feel like the thing is, most of the people that don't like him have probably, for the most part, never seen him work. I don't know if I've ever interacted with someone who saw him work and thought, I don't like that guy. Like, and you know what? From a personal standpoint, he kind of is a very abrasive guy. He's not likable as a human, and he would tell you that too. But to watch him work, he's brilliant. Like he's really, really good. So I feel like all these people that don't like him, once he gets on this new platform and this new stage, he's gonna make a lot of fans and a lot of believers out of Darby Allin. Like he is a guy that Evolve was building their company around him, and they really should have. I'm surprised they'd never pulled the trigger on him. But yeah, I mean, they have a really big potential star in Darby Allin right now, and I think they probably know that too.
Yeah, the thing with, and this is where I'm different than a lot of people, I don't care a lot of what you do in your personal life as opposed to how you perform and the character that is presented to me. Because all I care about is when you're trying to entertain me. If you happen to be a dick on Twitter, whatever, I don't care.
Darby's like cool. He'll be nice to you if you meet him in real life, but not overly. Like he's a big introvert. Like he's told people like countless times, like he doesn't care about making fans and being friendly, like, and doing press. Like he doesn't want to. He just wants to perform and entertain.
Yeah. At my height of my Randy Orton love, which I had a height of my Randy Orton love, I met him and he was a dick to me. And you know what? I still loved Randy Orton. You know why? Because he entertains me. I don't really care if we're best friends. You know? Because most people I don't meet that I admire and that I look up to, I don't meet them at all. I don't care if you're a good person in essence when it comes to whether I still find what you do entertaining. Hey,
we had Will Ospreay at our party, last Sunday night, and it's well documented that the experience I had with him as a fan, and it wasn't great, but like it doesn't mean that I'm not still a fan of his, or that I don't put him over or recognize that he's like one of the greatest wrestlers alive today,
Yeah, I met him. He was super nice to me.
Was he?
Yeah, he was like overly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Coughing fit in the middle of saying how good he was.
You okay, man?
No, I am not, but I will be okay. Thank God for a mute button, because most people would have been calling the ambulance or something right now. Well, I'm trying to wrap up the show, but I'm dying. So,
well, we've got one last thing to talk about before we go.
What is that thing, sir? I'm gonna let you start.
The breaking news: Turner Sports, Warner Media Group.
Go ahead and read it so I can recover.
Okay, gotcha. So the breaking news, ladies and gentlemen: Warner Media Group, aka Turner Sports, which is the media conglomerate of TNT and TBS, will be presenting All Elite Wrestling at their upfronts to advertisers next month. Warner Media / Turner upfronts are currently scheduled for May 15th. That's my birthday, by the way. Hint, hint. This is how networks announce their content lineup for the fall season to advertisers. So, yeah, like the rumors have been going on for a while that like there's one, maybe two TV deals on the horizon. And, the names that I've been hearing like bounced around the industry for a while now were TNT, TBS. We know that they've got a Turner Sports Group. They just signed a big deal with One Fighting Championship out of Singapore, which is one of the largest mixed martial arts groups in the world. And the rumor had been that they've been in negotiations to add All Elite to their lineup of sports content, and it looks like that is now confirmed. So like nothing official's come out, but like it's pretty much official. Like they're going to be with Turner Sports.
That is awesome. And now I am not dying anymore because I kind of had a coughing fit. I mean, straight up coughing fit. Thank you for covering for me there. Very excited.
Only the best.
Yeah, very excited about the TV upfronts. May 15th, your birthday. You're a Brahma Bull, sir.
Yep, I'm a Taurus.
Yes. But yeah, I'm very excited about that. Me personally, I wanted to be on TBS. I grew up on Crockett and WCW on TBS. That's my preferred channel. But any channel is great for them to have their product out there.
Yeah, this is a really big deal. And, Turner Sports is also doing some very interesting things with their streaming as well.
Yes.
With ONE FC. So I have a strong feeling that will play a big role in their decision to feature, All Elite Wrestling as part of their content lineup.
Yeah, it's some unsubstantiated rumors I've heard is that the day that they're going to premiere that they're shooting for is like the week that SmackDown moves to Friday nights. That's when they would premiere.
That's in October or November?
October.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. So I mean,
yeah, like I said, unsubstantiated. It's not, but that's what I've heard, and it would make sense. People are already used to watching TV wrestling on Tuesdays. I
mean, who was it that said that? Meltzer?
Yes.
Then it's probably going to happen.
Probably going to happen because he's inside of there. So I'm.
The crazy thing is, like, Meltzer was the first one to kind of report the rumors about All Elite, and he was like, it's the Bucks, it's Cody, it's Omega, it's Jericho, it's the Khans, and it's JR. And at the time that sounded so far-fetched, and now here we are, and it's April, and all those people that were reported as key players are literally part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, he's not wrong. I know a lot of people hate Meltzer. I'm not one of them. I believe I just believe he's a news source. That's what he is. And he has an opinion. Whether you respect or like his opinion's up to you.
I mean, yeah, I don't agree with everything that Dave says, and he's not always right, but I've been listening to Dave and reading The Observer most of my life, and more often than not, he usually is right. And I feel like people that hate him don't understand his role in this industry, or the fact that all of us who do podcasts probably wouldn't be doing podcasts without him, or even be smart fans without his influence. It's funny how all the hatred towards him comes from smart fans, but they wouldn't exist without him.
You know what? You hate your creator.
That is kind of what it is.
Yeah, he is the creator. I mean, because after, he was smart, but he worked with the industry. Dave Meltzer just reports, He treats it as news. Of course, some people are going to give him, bad things to, and going to give him hey, this is happening, and then they change their mind or whatever. Of course,
he's definitely wrong some of the time, but his track record is so pretty substantiated, and there's so many verifiable people in the industry that are yeah, Dave has sources, and I mean, he's been doing this for, 30 years? I mean, I don't know. It's just always funny to me when I hear people who've been fans for 5 or 6 years say how much they hate Dave. And I'm like, what? Do you not know that he was our news source for the last 30 years? We didn't have anything else. There was no internet. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. He was you had the paper for a long time. Well, sir, I believe that was the last piece of news today. I'm getting a wrap it up sign from my fiance as she is trying to sleep, and I am
Tell
loud.
her thank you for lending your voice to us and lending your time to us. Yes. And it has been such a pleasure for me to be on the show. And I'm looking forward to, everything that's coming up with what you guys have going on.
Thank you. I appreciate you jumping on very last minute for me. Today you are the real MVP. I am glad to be. I am glad to be one of the reason I am with Social Suplex is because of your idea. So that is good. I've always respected you from afar because I've a fan of Keeping It Strong Style every week when the show comes out. I'm like, before I even knew you, I was listening to your show and I knew your voice. So I definitely appreciate you being on the show. You're you definitely one of the people I respect as far as their opinions, because you look at things with a more critical eye than me. Because I am happy-go-lucky, looking at the positive things every time. I need someone to sometimes bring me down. So I need you to do that for me sometimes.
Well, it's one thing for me to have the idea for us to have the show, but it's another thing for you to bring it to life and carry it out every week. So, I mean, really, this is your baby. This is your show, and I'm just glad to be on it.
Dude, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Should I do my plugs real quick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you guys can I don't have a Twitter. I don't do the social media, but you can follow my show at KI Strong Style. You can also follow Jeremy Donovan, my co-host, at Jeremy L. Donovan on Twitter. On Reddit, he is the Pro Black Guy. I am Keeping It Strong Style. Our show drops as part of the Social Suplex Network, Keeping It Strong Style. We are the best New Japan podcast in all of the internet. We are the ace of podcasts. We drop every single Tuesday morning. You can give us a follow, a listen, rate us, review us, and then all the other shows that we have on the network.
And you can definitely follow us at AT Elite Pod on Twitter. That's where I do most of my work. I am trying to get more into the Reddit game as it is, but that is a new world for me. So that is fun. This show drops every Saturday, so it'll drop in a little bit. And again, thank you for being on the show, Josh. And just remember, all week you listen to the Social Suplex, you watch your wrestling, but whatever you do, whether it's work, school, when it's play, always do your best to be elite.